Organizing your own life isn't a stage with spotlights, it's backstage work. It's that invisible adjustment no one comments on, but everyone feels. While many spend their energy trying to look strong, victorious, unshakable, the true Stoic chooses the silent engineering of their own existence. There's no applause for fixing what no one sees, but there is peace. And peace, is the most important victory. Stop and ask yourself now, how many changes have you started by announcing them, and how many have you finished in silence? In this video, I'll walk you through 10 Stoic rules that are rarely practiced, not because they're difficult, but because they demand something few are willing to give: consistency without an audience. If you stay until the end, you'll walk away with a concrete map to reorganize your life from the inside out. Remember that phrase, with decisions that don't depend on the mood of the day. Deal? A disorganized life makes noise. It squeaks, interrupts, scatters. An organized life, on the other hand, quiets the room without asking permission. Structure, clarity, firmness. You don't need to explain your silences, justify your priorities, or answer invasive curiosities. Pay attention. People who waste time trying to convince the world they've changed usually forget to actually change. The Stoics' focus isn't to please other people's eyes, it's to align the framework of their own routine with reality. Life without waste, without excess, without distraction. When you stop polishing the image and take care of the structure, your axis falls back into place. And, curiously, the world out there begins to rearrange itself on its own. Looks like magic. It's method. This shift doesn't happen because the world suddenly got kinder, but because you stopped feeding chaos. You start to act with method, observe calmly, prioritize with an elegant coldness, and most importantly, say no to what keeps your mind, your finances, your emotions, and your spirituality in disorder. Organization isn't a gift, it's a choice. And every Stoic choice demands 3 gatekeepers: strength, consistency, and discernment. Living an ordered life means renouncing haste, abandoning reactivity, and accepting that control was never about what happens, but about how you structure your days to face whatever comes. That inner skeleton rises on principles, not impulses. Remember Epictetus, no one is free unless they master themselves. And here's a blunt note: whoever sells their time to every notification is outsourcing the ship's wheel. If you're ready for the silent commitment to your own growth, let's make a quick pact. Drop an "I'm in" the comments. It's your public contract with a private journey. That helps this video reach those who need this quiet push. And yes, subscribe and share with someone who's asking for order in the middle of the noise. Who's really willing to organize life from the inside out? Right until the end at the bottom. I want to know who came to practice, not just to collect quotes. That said, breathe. Let's get to the 10 rules. The first one? Start the day without rushing. Sounds simple. It's revolutionary. Starting without rushing isn't poetry, it's strength. The first decisions of the morning reveal if you're living with intention or just being dragged. Wake up and grab the phone is the initiation ritual of chaos. You put the world in your head before you even remember who you are. The result? Your mind runs before your body, and the whole day is spent chasing itself. The Stoic does it differently. They protect the first hour like you'd protect a vault. No mysticism, just rationality. Aligning the mind. Remembering what matters. Anchoring reason. Marcus Aurelius wrote to himself at dawn, a note of lucidity for the day ahead. Will you try it tomorrow? Hold on to this principle: 10 minutes in silence are worth more than 60 minutes in distraction. Close your eyes and imagine your morning without the stimuli that hijack you. Cortisol drops, your pulse steadies, decisions sharpen. But I don't have much time. Perfect. Quality of presence, quantity of minutes. This small act changes the rhythm of your day. Want a real story with a hook you won't forget? Claudio, a bus driver, woke up at 4:15. Garage, horns, hurried people, tight schedules. Even so, he never lost his calm. What was his secret? A simple ritual: shower, strong coffee, 15 minutes in the back porch. No phone. No talk. Just the dark sky slowly lightening in a battered notebook. It's the only moment of the day when I'm 100% mine, he used to say. A coworker mocked him, that won't change anything. You'll still earn the same little money. Claudio looked him in the eye. I don't do this to earn more. I do it to lose less of myself. That phrase stuck. Did it stick with you too? If it did, drop in the chat, less of myself. Years later, at his farewell from the company, one of the most restless coworkers grabbed the microphone. It was Claudio who taught me that calm is a choice and that the day only feels rushed when we hand over control too soon. Wisdom doesn't need trending topics. It needs repetition. Tomorrow, before anything, sit. Breathe. Don't touch your phone. Ask, what depends on me today? External chaos is inevitable. Internal chaos is optional. If you adjust your awakening, you alter the course of your day. And those who start in command greatly increase the odds of finishing in command. Hold on to that, because in part 2 I'll give you the second rule, and a symbol that will change your relationship with focus forever. Rule 2, cut distractions to the minimum. The world screams all the time. Your greatness doesn't. Focus is energy. Wasted energy becomes wasted life. Every notification, every just 5 minutes, every open tab is a microbleed of attention. Sounds dramatic? Take a look at your history from yesterday. How much of what you scrolled, watched, or commented on actually built something? Exactly. An organized life begins with subtraction, less noise, less vanity, less checking what others are doing. That doesn't make you cold, it makes you clear. Think of the eagle. It doesn't flap its wings like crazy. It observes, hovers, chooses, then dives. Up there, the wind, the clouds, the noise all become background. The world exists, but so does the target. And what's not the target disappears. That's the state we're training, unifocal attention. You weren't born to absorb the entire planet, you were born to fulfill a purpose. And purpose demands concentration. Without it, you become a spectator of your own life, a channel surfer of yourself. Want a quick test? Set a 25-minute block right now, Pomodoro method, with no notifications. If you fail before halfway, don't blame yourself, adjust the environment. The error isn't yours, it's in the design of your day. Seneca wrote the most modern strike against procrastination. While we waste our time hesitating and postponing, life is slipping away. Write that down in your notebook tomorrow morning. Distraction is a thief disguised as rest. You say I'll be right back and never return to yourself. By the time you notice, you're irritated, unproductive, confused, and with the false feeling that you worked. The Stoic attacks the ground first: clean desk, phone on silent, useless apps deleted, feeds limited, notifications cut. Then he organizes the mind, a list of 3 priorities, not 20, a focus window, and a response window. Yes, answering messages is not life, it's a task. And tasks have a time. Practical exercise, retention hook. Before this video ends, you'll choose one anchor distraction to cut for 7 days. Just one. The eraser that deletes 80% of your energy usually hides in 20% of your habits. Which one is it? TikTok in the morning? News at night? Side chats during focus time? Identify your main villain. Comment which one you'll cut. This public commitment changes your private results. Want a mental image you'll never forget? The mind is a lake. Throw in too many stones in the water clouds. Protect the surface and you'll see the bottom. The bottom is where your best ideas live, the decisions that unlock the week, the solutions that save you months. It's not that you lack creativity, it's that your water is always murky. Reducing distractions isn't isolation, it's selection. It's an act of self-respect. A filter that gives intelligence back to daily life. And here's the symbol I promised in part 1, hang a small image of an eagle in your workspace. Every time your finger goes to a notification, look at the eagle and ask, what's my target right now? If this idea stuck with you, write Eagle Eye in the chat. That's our code. Now, Come with me to a step few have the courage to take. Rule 3. Question the superfluous. It sounds obvious, but it hurts because it touches attachment. It's not just about objects, it's about inherited expectations, goals that aren't yours, relationships kept out of fear, tasks you tolerate out of habit. But I like it, great. The Stoic question isn't do I like it? It's does it serve my axis? A life full of things can still be empty of meaning. Minimalism isn't poverty, it's refinement. It's the strength to say, this is beautiful, but it's not mine. Want a provocation now, open loop? How many of your recent decisions were made just to look normal? I'll give you the practical filter that separates the essential from the excess in 60 seconds. But first, a metaphor you'll carry with you, the mountain tree. No fertilizer, no protection, no audience. It grows slowly, with deep roots and a strong trunk. It lets go of what's dry, doesn't cling to what's already run its course. It doesn't stretch in every direction to please the landscape. It grows upward. Clear direction. You can do the same starting today. Look around and ask honestly, what's taking space that should have already left? Yes, write one thing in the comments, it's a powerful symbolic act. Quick reminder, if you want to go further, create a lake notebook, 1 page per day to write down the noises that muddy your water. In a week, you'll see patterns. In a month, you'll release massive energy. And with your energy back, everything changes, focus, mood, results. Promise delivered, the 60-second filter to cut the superfluous. Take any item, task, invitation, or habit and answer. 1. Does this sustain my core, my code of values? 2. Does this bring me closer to a goal I've committed to? 3. Does this reduce noise or create noise? If you can't say a clear yes to at least 2 of these, you've found an elegant superfluous. Thank it and let it go. Do this today with 3 things, 1 physical, 1 digital, 1 mental. By the end of the day, even your breathing will shift. Tomorrow, repeat. This is the muscle of selection. Careful, the most dangerous superfluous is the one people applaud. The things others admire in you but deep down you know no longer serve you. Cutting that takes courage, because it feels like you're losing value, when in truth, you're regaining identity. Seneca has a line that pierces the soul, it's foolish to fix your life by accumulating when what it truly asks is to shed the excess. Contemporary translation, your potential isn't blocked by what's missing, but by what's overflowing. Now, let's close a loop by open back in part 2 with a story about identity, and it delivers a practical shift. Gustavo, a talented architect, couldn't decide without consulting someone, his boss, colleagues, girlfriend, forums, feeds. 3 weeks to design a facade. With every opinion, a new style. Minimalist, imposing, modern, classical. The client gave up. Not because of the delay, but because of the lack of access. That night, Gustavo turned off his phone, stared at a blank page, and wrote, "Who am I when no one tells me what to do?" It hurt to admit, but he realized, he was living on outsourced opinions. So he created a non-negotiable rule, never show drafts before finishing a first full version for himself. The anxiety roared for days. When he finally presented the project, the client said, "This work has identity." That one word saved a career, and it can save your routine. Soon, in part 4, we'll talk about boundaries, the silent bricks of an organized life. But first, here's a micro practice for right now. Write on a piece of paper this is mine and this is not mine. Under the first, list 3 responsibilities that are truly yours. Under the second, list 3 expectations you've been carrying that don't have a clear owner. Now tear up the second list. Yes, tear it. That physical act reprograms the mind to release what doesn't belong to your axis. Another blind spot no one told you about, a lot of disorganization comes from the fear of looking strange for swimming against the current. The Stoic doesn't try to look different, he tries to be coherent. When there's coherence, judgment loses power. Someone with a solid axis doesn't need an audience, they need routine. And routine, as you'll see in part 10, is structured freedom, not a cage. Hold on to this inner rhyme: without axis, there's only noise; with axis, there's time. Now, to prepare the ground for boundaries, here's an insight that hurts but heals. No one respects a limit you already violate inside yourself. The first no is intimate. You say yes to avoid discomfort and break your own rule. The result? Silent exhaustion, bottled anger, sabotaged productivity. Next, I'll show you how to set boundaries without fighting for them, and how to communicate what's non-negotiable naturally, without becoming a prisoner of endless justifications. Just promise me one thing: if this makes sense, write clear boundaries down below. It looks small, but in practice, it changes everything. Setting boundaries is one of the greatest signs of maturity you can give yourself. But contrary to what many people think, boundaries don't have to be loud, don't need heated arguments, and don't need to be raised like a flag. A boundary isn't a wall, it's a contour. It's a silent map you draw so your life doesn't become open territory for outside invasions. Those who don't set boundaries become hostages to other people's improvisations. They live reacting to others' moods, to other people's urgencies, to the schedules of those who never learn to organize their own. And over time, this person starts to feel an exhaustion they can't explain, always busy but never fulfilled, always surrounded but never respected. Not because others are malicious, but because of their own lack of clarity. The first boundary broken is always internal. Have you noticed how often you say yes to something when, inside, everything in you is screaming no? That happens because you didn't have the courage to hold your own line. Here's the crucial detail: a boundary isn't something others need to accept first, it's something you need to respect in yourself. If you don't honor your own time, your rest, your focus, your need for silence, how can you expect the world to do that for you? The truth is, the world responds to what you communicate consistently. And communication isn't in words, it's in habits. A person who constantly breaks their own boundaries is unconsciously telling others, my time is available, my priorities are negotiable, my values are adaptable. The outcome is predictable: everyone starts treating that person as if they had no fences. Think of a simple example: a mother who works from home, balancing reports, meetings, and caring for her kids. Without boundaries, at every interruption she stops, answers, and loses her train of thought. At the end of the day, she's exhausted, unproductive, and still blaming herself for not managing everything. Now imagine the same scene with one clear detail: she sets the rule, from 9 to 11, mom is busy and can only be interrupted in an emergency. That changes everything. It's not rigidity, it's clarity. The kids learn to respect it, the environment adapts, the work flows. A boundary, when set calmly and consistently, becomes a silent law. It doesn't need explanation, it needs repetition. And repetition, over time, creates natural respect. The problem is that most people are afraid of seeming harsh, insensitive, selfish. And because of that fear, they accept invitations they don't want, answer messages at the wrong times, say yes when they meant no, give up their own rest to put out other people's fires. Here's the irony: those who never set boundaries end up drifting away from people anyway, out of sheer saturation. They build silent resentments, suppressed anger, accumulated frustration. The peace they tried to keep on the outside turns into war on the inside. The Stoic sees this trap and acts differently. They understand that true peace doesn't come from avoiding external discomfort, but from sustaining internal order. And sustaining internal order demands clear discipline, not abandoning yourself just to keep others around. It's also important to understand that boundaries aren't isolation walls. They're not meant to cut ties or push away those you love. They're meant to organize the flow. Think of a house with no doors: anyone can walk in at any time, no privacy, no order. Now think of a house with doors: you still welcome visitors, but you decide who enters, when they enter, and how far they go. That's exactly what boundaries do for your life. They create doors. And those doors don't need to be locked with aggression, they just need to be visible, clear, and functional. A person with well-defined boundaries isn't distant, they're someone who knows how to make room without losing their own structure. Here's a practical exercise. Today, choose one single boundary you often break. It could be your rest time, your phone usage, your availability for last-minute favors, your lunch break, or your bedtime. Write on a piece of paper, this space is non-negotiable. Put it somewhere visible and, for 1 week, hold that boundary without justifying it. Watch what happens. At first, the discomfort will be strong, in you and in others. But with time, something surprising happens. People begin to respect it, and you begin to breathe deeper. You'll discover life feels lighter when you don't have to explain every choice. The world adjusts when you adjust. People who today insist, push, and cross your lines will step back once they see there's no more room. Not because you yelled, but because you lived with coherence. That's the beauty of the silent boundary. It doesn't need to be defended out loud, because it's carved into your behavior. Those who want to enter will do so with respect. Those who don't respect it will find closed doors. And here lies the Stoics' great synthesis. Setting boundaries is declaring to the world, silently, I am in command of my life. That's real authority. Not the one that shouts, but the one that lives with clarity. Recording mistakes is one of the most powerful, yet most neglected practices when it comes to organizing your own life. Most people prefer to collect victories, mark goals achieved, celebrate small wins. But almost no one dedicates the same care to observing stumbles, mapping missteps, and understanding where their own conduct went off track. The result is predictable. Mistakes that aren't analyzed repeat themselves, often in long, painful cycles disguised as fate. The Stoic refuses to live trapped in that pattern. They choose to look back not to blame themselves, but to learn, because they understand that every failure carries a key of clarity that can prevent 10 future falls. When you write down your mistakes, you create a kind of map of your own traps. You begin to see the points where you stumble repeatedly and, by recognizing them, you gain the chance to anticipate. The mistake you ignore becomes recurrence, the mistake you understand becomes condensed wisdom. Marcus Aurelius, the emperor who ruled an entire empire and still wrote to himself every morning, knew this power. His meditations were never meant for publication, but for personal cleansing. There, he admitted without fear, today I was vain. Today I got angry over foolishness. Today I gave in to thoughts unworthy of reason. These notes didn't make him smaller in his own eyes, they made him stronger. That intimate transparency created a bond of responsibility that needed no audience. The moment a mistake was recorded, it stopped being a ghost and became raw material for transformation. By writing, Marcus turned slips into steps. The modern Stoic can do the same, even without an empire to rule. A simple notebook, a note on your phone, any record works. What matters is not the form, but the consistency. The practice of recording mistakes requires courage because it unmasks the excuses we use to ease our conscience. How many times have you promised yourself you'd change, only to fall back into the same behavior days later, as if it were inevitable? It wasn't inevitable, it just wasn't analyzed. The brain prefers to push uncomfortable memories into forgetfulness. It's easier to pretend it never happened. But comfort doesn't organize life. It's lucid discomfort that produces real change. When you write, for example, today I lost control in the meeting because I felt disrespected, you create the chance to ask, what was the trigger? The word used? The tone? Or was it my pride being hurt? This type of discipline analysis reveals hidden patterns. You discover that certain times of day leave you more vulnerable, that certain people drag you into poor decisions, that certain environments destabilize you. Without this kind of clarity, you keep stumbling in the dark. An unrecorded mistake is like a broken window you ignore at home. You might sweep the floor every day, but the wind will keep bringing dust. You need to fix the source, not just clean the effects. Organizing your life without examining mistakes is exactly that, tidying the outside while the same inner triggers stay open. And the longer you avoid looking, the stronger the habit of repetition becomes. The mind learns to fall the same way, as if there were a hidden script. Only conscious recording interrupts the cycle. When you write and analyze, it's as if you're telling your brain, I saw what happened, I understood the pattern, and next time I'll be alert. That silent message creates a subtle but real shift. Many people fear writing down mistakes because they confuse recording with guilt. Stoicism, however, is not a philosophy of guilt, but of responsibility. Guilt paralyzes, responsibility frees. Guilt is looking back and whipping yourself. Responsibility is looking back and preparing better for what's ahead. When you feel guilty, you burn emotional energy that fixes nothing. When you take responsibility, you use rational energy that reorganizes everything. The simple act of honestly writing what went wrong is already an exercise of power, because it pulls the mistake out of the shadows and places it under the light of reason. And nothing stays the same once it's exposed to reason's light. Practical exercise: for the next 7 days, at the end of each day, write a single sentence answering the question, what knocked me off balance today? It could be a slip in behavior, an impulsive reaction, a poorly thought out decision, a distraction that ate hours. The size of the mistake doesn't matter, the recording does. Then write a second sentence, what was the trigger? At the end of the week, read the 7 sentences. You'll see patterns. You'll notice they may not be 7 different mistakes, but variations of the same one, triggered by the same cause. That discovery is gold. Because now you can act at the root. Imagine the impact over a year. 7 mistakes recorded each week is nearly 400 analyzed in 12 months. 400 points of self-knowledge that turn into behavior adjustments. Do you really think someone who does this will remain the same? Impossible. The brain is shaped by what is repeated. If you repeat distraction, the mind scatters. If you repeat awareness, the mind organizes itself. That is the true invisible work of the Stoic, not showing victories online, but cultivating silent victories over their own flaws. Life doesn't organize itself. It organizes when you shine light on the dark spots. Recording mistakes is like building a compass. With each note, you add a detail to the map. In no time, you start seeing yourself more clearly. You know where you step, where you stumble, where you need to place more firmness. And little by little, you realize you no longer need to fear your own missteps. Because missteps stop being invisible holes and become visible steps. You rise precisely because you learn how to fall. That is the Stoic essence, not living by appearances, but by adjustments. Continuous, silent, honest adjustments. Those who organize their own mistakes, organize their own life. Working in silence is one of the most underestimated habits in this age of constant exposure. Today, everything has to be told, shown, shared, displayed. Too many people talk about what they're going to do, and very few actually do it. This creates an illusion: those who talk a lot seem productive, but rarely are they consistent. The Stoic sees this mistake and chooses another path. They understand that an organized life doesn't need to be announced with every brick laid. True progress is built underground, away from the spotlight, protected from vanity and judgment. It's in the shadows that firmness is forged. It's not about hiding, it's about preserving energy. Those who talk too much about what isn't ready yet spend their strength maintaining an image instead of building structure. And the image, no matter how polished, won't hold you up when crises come. Nature is the clearest example of this principle. The sun doesn't need to announce it will rise. The mountains don't need to declare they are solid. The river doesn't send invitations for people to watch it flow. They simply exist, appear in their time, and fulfill their role with constancy. The Atacama Desert, for instance, seems empty, dead, barren from afar. Yet hidden within it is one of the world's greatest spectacles, nights so perfect for observing the stars that it houses the largest astronomical observatory on the planet. While the noisy world rushes, the Atacama sees galaxies no one else sees. That is how silence becomes power, it creates depth. Just because there's no sound doesn't mean there's no greatness. Often, what is discreet is exactly what is most monumental. We live in an era of noise, where even those who haven't started a project yet feel the urge to announce it, as if the promise itself were proof. How many times have you heard someone say they were going to change, start a routine, turn their life around, and then never saw results? That's because announcing has become an excuse for action. The announcement gives a false sense of movement, but it's only noise. The Stoic knows consistency doesn't need advertising. The greatest proof of change is a transformed life itself. It's when you, without saying a word, transmit strength through how you act. The fruits speak when they arrive. There's no use trying to force a tree to mature faster by shouting at it. It grows at the right pace. Practical exercise *, choose a personal project and, for 7 days, don't tell anyone about it. Work in silence. Resist the temptation to explain, justify, or display. Just do it. At the end of the week, evaluate the experience. You'll notice silence brings lightness. Without the pressure of maintaining an image, you focus on structure. Without the need to prove anything, you stay on what matters. The result is surprising. You advance more in silence than you would trying to convince others that you're advancing. It's like training in secret. When you finally show up, there's no speech, only transformation. There's also a powerful psychological detail in this habit. When you talk about something you haven't done yet, your brain feels a small pleasure, as if you had already achieved it. That deceptive sensation drains the energy needed for real action. That's why so many people quit halfway. They burn their motivation before even starting. Silence protects your energy from this trap. It keeps your mind focused on practice, not performance. Silent work is armor against the addiction to validation. Those who need to be seen all the time are the ones who haven't yet learned to see themselves clearly. Those who know what they're doing don't need an audience, they need discipline. There's a phrase that can serve as a motto for this rule: not everything that grows needs to announce it's growing. Bamboo, for example, spends years strengthening its roots underground, invisible, without applause, without attention. But when it finally sprouts, it grows meters in just weeks, sustained by what it built in silence. That's how your life should be. If you're organizing your routine, your mind, your habits, you don't need to tell anyone. Let the strength come from silence and, if there's noise, let it come from the results. The world respects those who appear ready, not those who live promising. Working in silence, at its core, is an act of humility. It's recognizing there's still much to build and that you don't need to prove anything in the middle of the process. It's accepting that maturity doesn't need likes, that discipline doesn't ask for applause, that order isn't made with speeches but with invisible repetitions. That's the beauty of applied stoicism, a life that may look simple on the outside but is solid on the inside. It's how you overcome the need to justify, explain, or show. You simply live with constancy, and sooner or later, that becomes evident to everyone. One of the greatest enemies of inner organization is the excess of opinions. Have you noticed how easy it is to get lost when everyone tries to tell you what you should do? Opinions come from everywhere: friends, family, coworkers, social media, digital gurus. Each person has an idea, a critique, a suggestion. And without realizing it, you start shaping your choices to please invisible audiences. Life turns into theater. You set up a performance to win approval, but deep down you feel you're drifting away from who you really are. This mental confusion is born out of too many voices. The Stoic sees this and learns to filter. He knows it's not arrogance to turn down excessive opinions, it's prudence. A mind full of external voices never finds enough silence to decide with firmness. The case of Gustavo, the young architect, illustrates this trap perfectly. Talented, skilled, creative, yet unable to decide without asking someone first. For every project, he'd show it to his boss, ask colleagues, send it to friends, seek his girlfriend's opinion, read online forums. The more he listened, the more he lost himself. He could never sustain one idea for more than 24 hours. The result: clients walked away, colleagues saw him as indecisive, and he himself felt lost. Until one day, after losing an important contract, he locked himself at home and wrote on a sheet of paper, *, who am I when no one tells me what to do? *, that question changed everything. He realized he had no identity because he was living off fragments of other people's opinions. From then on, Gustavo created a personal rule: never show his projects before a first full delivery. For days, the anxiety was huge. The urge to show and confirm was almost irresistible. But he resisted. And when he finally presented his work to a client, he heard something he had never heard before. This project has identity. It was the first time someone used that word. And it made sense, because identity isn't built out of borrowed approval. Identity is born from inner silence, from the courage to hold your choices even without applause. That's the point. Whoever lives on external opinions will never have an organized life. Practical exercise. Choose an area of your life where you usually ask for too many opinions. It could be career, appearance, personal projects, relationships. Decide that for the next 7 days you'll make decisions in that area without consulting anyone. Just you, your principles, and your reason. At first, the fear will be strong. You'll feel insecure. But over time, you'll notice clarity growing. You'll hear yourself more. And by hearing yourself, you'll discover the voice that has always been muffled by external noise. This practice can transform not only your practical life, but your confidence as a whole. The excess of opinions is a modern addiction. We live in a world of social media that conditions us to seek validation at every step. We post photos, ideas, projects, searching for instant approval. But this search never ends. The more you get, the more you need. And the more you need, the less you trust yourself. It's an emotional dependency cycle. The Stoic breaks this cycle with selective silence. He chooses to listen less, listen better, and filter what truly matters. He doesn't reject advice arrogantly, but evaluates the source. Does this person live what they preach? Has this person built something I respect? Do they have principles I admire? If yes, he listens. If not, he discards without guilt. Have you noticed how some people remain steady even under criticism? They don't get shaken because they don't live for other people's approval. That doesn't mean they don't listen, it means they know how to filter. It's like panning for gold in the middle of sand. Not every piece of information is valuable. Not every piece of advice applies. And, most importantly, not every critique deserves attention. Once you understand that, you organize your mind. And once your mind is organized, your life follows. The excess of opinions is like static on the radio. You can't hear the music while all the frequencies are on. You need to tune in. The rule is simple: thank people for their advice, but follow your compass. That phrase may sound harsh, but it's liberating. Because in the end, no one else will carry the weight of your choices. People can give their opinions all they want, but they won't live the consequences in your place. That clarity is enough to cut half the noise. If you need a practical reminder, write it on a piece of paper and stick it on your mirror. I am responsible for my own path. Read it every day. Little by little, you'll see you don't need so many opinions. What you really need is silence, to listen to yourself. An organized life doesn't rely only on habits, lists, or goals. It depends on an invisible axis that sustains every decision, a personal code of conduct. Without it, you become like a leaf in the wind, shifting direction with every current. One day you act with discipline, the next you give in to impulse. One week you stay consistent, the next you drop everything. This constant swing comes from the absence of clear principles. It's like living without a compass. You may walk, but you don't know where you're going. The Stoic understands he must define before he acts. He decides first who he wants to be, and then lives accordingly. That's the secret: clarity before movement. Epictetus put it this way: first say to yourself what you would be, then do what you have to do. The phrase seems simple, but its impact is immense. Because it forces you to face the questions most people avoid. What is non-negotiable for me? What will I never betray, even when no one is watching? Which values guide my decisions? If you don't answer these, the world answers for you. And the world changes its opinion every day. That's why so many live lost. They follow principles that aren't their own. Today it's the trend of productivity, tomorrow the trend of radical freedom, then the trend of detachment. Whoever doesn't have a personal code ends up being manipulated by someone else's. A code of conduct doesn't need to be a long manifesto. It can start with just 3 simple statements: Asterisk, I don't trade my honesty. I don't abandon my word. I don't sacrifice my peace for approval. Asterisk, that alone already shifts how you live. Because in every decision, you now have criteria. It doesn't matter if the situation is new, hard, or confusing, you have an axis. And that axis is stronger than any impulse. Impulse shouts for immediate pleasure, but the code whispers for coherence. Those who listen to the code bring order to their lives. Practical exercise asterisk today, write down 5 principles you'd like to uphold. They don't need to be perfect or final. Just write them. Then choose one and live it consciously for the next 7 days. Every time a situation challenges that principle, remind yourself that you already decided beforehand. This trains the muscle of coherence. Over time, you'll realize you don't need to decide everything from scratch, because you've already decided before. That saves energy, reduces anxiety, and increases firmness. The code becomes your silent compass. Having a code is also a way to simplify. How many times have you wasted too much time deciding something small because you had no clear criteria? A code reduces that confusion. You already know you don't lie, so when the opportunity comes, there's nothing to deliberate. You already know you don't break your word, so there's no hesitation. You already know you won't waste energy on what's out of your control, so you don't burn yourself out unnecessarily. A code organizes life because it organizes the mind. Think of someone you admire. It's not for their perfection, but for their consistency. Admirable people don't change their minds every day. They have values that sustain their actions. That's what generates respect, even in silence. It's not speeches that impress, but coherence. You can be that person. And when you are, you discover something powerful. You don't need to shout to be heard. The strength of coherence speaks for itself. At its core, a personal code is the highest form of freedom. Because you no longer depend on moods, on other people's approval, or on passing trends. You live by what you have chosen for yourself. And that gives you a sense of firmness that no circumstance can take away. The world may change, but you remain standing. Because your life isn't resting on chance, but on solid principles. That is the beauty of the invisible code. No one needs to see it for it to hold everything together. Few things corrode inner order as much as constant complaining. Complaining turns discomfort into a narrative. It's wasting energy explaining why something doesn't work instead of fixing what needs to be fixed. The problem with narratives is that they demand an audience. That's why chronic complainers are always searching for one, friends, coworkers, social media. They spend hours talking about the problem but not minutes acting on it. And so life stays the same. The Stoic does the opposite. He observes, analyzes, decides. If he can change something, he changes it. If he can't, he accepts it with firmness. But he never wastes energy on lamentations, because he knows every minute spent complaining is a minute stolen from action. Complaining is also an addiction, mental, emotional, even physical. The mind gets used to turning any discomfort into a complaint. The body gets conditioned to sigh, groan, grumble. It becomes almost automatic. But the complaint addiction is treacherous because it offers a fleeting sense of relief. You say something, someone agrees, and for a moment you feel understood. But nothing changes. The problem remains, and the energy to face it fades. It's like drinking salt water. It quenches thirst in the moment but weakens you in the long run. Practical exercise asterisk for the next 3 days, take on a radical challenge. Every time you feel the urge to complain, take a deep breath and ask yourself, asterisk, what can I do right now to improve this, even in a small way? Asterisk, if there's an action, take it. If there isn't, accept in silence. Just this practice transforms the way you handle discomfort. You'll realize many of your complaints serve no practical purpose. They're just noise. And when you cut the noise, you free internal space. The mind feels lighter, and life more organized. Nature shows us this principle in silence. Think of the giant sequoias in California. Thousands of years old, monumental, steady, silent. They don't complain about rain, wind, or drought. They simply grow, slowly, with deep roots. And beneath the soil, their roots interlock in an invisible network of mutual support. No noise, no protest, just presence. That is the Stoic spirit: act in silence, grow in constancy, sustain yourself through discipline. Complaining is handing over control. It's like saying, the world is stronger than I am. Organizing life is the opposite. It's saying, the world is what it is, but I decide how I respond. That shift in posture changes everything. You stop being a hostage to circumstances and become an agent. It's a mature decision, trading complaint for movement. An organized life begins with that clarity. Marcus Aurelius summarized this rule in one line: the happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. Complaining is a low-quality thought. It acts like invisible poison, slowly weakening your firmness. Action, even small action, is a high-quality thought. It strengthens. Every time you act instead of complain, you train your mind to trust itself more. And the more you trust, the more you organize. In the end, the discipline of action is a choice. You can live as a victim or as a builder. Complaining keeps you stuck in the same place. Working, even in silence, opens the way forward. The Stoic doesn't need to announce his resilience, he shows it through constancy. He suffers, but continues. He gets tired, but persists. He stumbles, but stands again. And in that silent process, he organizes not only his own life but inspires those who watch him. Not through speeches, but through example. Many people believe that life's disorganization comes from a lack of time, but the truth is that we all have the same 24 hours each day. What separates those who live with structure from those who live in constant chaos isn't the amount of time, but the way it's managed. The problem isn't having too little time, but letting it slip through your fingers with improvisations, distractions, and so-called urgent demands. Those who don't define schedules are ruled by chance. Those who don't set blocks of priority become slaves to other people's emergencies. The Stoic understands this deeply: life is finite, time is the most valuable resource, and treating it carelessly is wasting your very existence. Living without routine is like handing a ship's wheel to the wind, depending on the current to decide where you'll arrive. Living with clear schedules is taking the helm, declaring that your life won't be governed only by outside demands but by conscious choices. It's crucial to understand that routine isn't a prison, as many believe, but structured freedom. When you define clear times to wake up, sleep, eat, work, rest, reflect, and meditate, you're not locking your life, you're freeing it from improvisation. Improvisation is what enslaves, what creates anxiety, what makes you feel you're always late for yourself. When you organize your days into blocks, you create protective margins against chaos. You know what comes first, what can be postponed, and what's non-negotiable. That clarity brings calm. Anxiety is born from confusion, from lack of boundaries. When everything can happen at any time, nothing really happens. When everything depends on the mood of the moment, life dissolves into dispersion. The Stoic fights this with discipline: each thing in its place, each task in its time. It's not rigidity, it's intelligence. Modern research confirms what ancient philosophers already intuited. A Duke University study revealed that over 40% of a person's daily actions are automatic, driven by habits and not conscious decisions. That means nearly half of your life happens on autopilot. Now think, if your habits are disordered, if your routine is chaotic, then 40% of your life is already compromised before you even try to improve it. That's why defining schedules isn't just a preference, it's a way to redesign that 40%. It's replacing bad automatisms with good ones. It's creating an inner system that works even when motivation fails. Those who organize their schedules organize not only their day but also their subconscious. And when the subconscious works in your favor, discipline stops being a burden and becomes a way of life. Practical exercise *, choose one time of your day to make sacred. It could be your waking time, your bedtime, your disconnect from the phone time, or your journaling time. Choose it and make it non-negotiable. Hold it for 7 days. The impact will be immediate. Your body starts to respond, your mind starts to trust, and you discover that consistency isn't about quantity but repetition. When one schedule holds, others begin to align around it. It's like placing a stake in the ground, the entire tent gains structure. Over time, you'll realize you don't need to change everything at once. Just start small and let consistency multiply. Life doesn't demand giant transformations overnight, it demands small choices repeated until they become identity. A defined routine is also a way to say no to the world without having to pronounce the word. When you know that from 7 to 8 in the morning your time is for reading, you naturally reject invitations, notifications, or interruptions without needing to justify. Routine speaks for you. When you know that at 10 at night it's bedtime, there's no debate, you just close the day. This invisible protection is one of the greatest strengths of living with method. The Stoic understands that by protecting his schedule, he protects his mind. Disorganized time is the door through which chaos enters. Contrary to what many think, the most productive and creative people aren't those who live in constant adventures, but those with routines that may look boring from the outside. They wake at the same time, begin their day with the same ritual, work in blocks, rest at the same moment. That repetition generates consistency, and consistency generates results. The beauty of this principle is that it doesn't need announcements. You don't need to tell anyone you're creating a new routine. You don't need to explain that you're trying to reorganize. Just do it in silence. At first, no one will notice. But with time, the results begin to speak. Your face changes, your energy changes, your results appear. Life that once felt heavy begins to flow. Chaos, however loud, retreats before constancy. Because chaos feeds on improvisation. When you stop improvising and start structuring, you starve chaos. It loses its grip. Silent consistency becomes an invisible wall against disorder. In the end, organizing time is organizing life itself. It's not about controlling every detail, but about not surrendering everything to disorder. It's creating your own rhythm, a cadence that sustains your growth. It's turning days into steps instead of mazes. When you live by principles instead of impulses, everything aligns. The inner world gains order, the outer world adjusts. And the most curious thing is realizing that the greatest transformations rarely happen with applause. They happen in the silence of daily adjustments, in invisible repetition, in the small no's you say to the world so you can say yes to yourself. This is the essence of Stoic organization: constancy without spectacle, discipline without vanity, order without noise. Whoever understands this understands that organizing life isn't just a habit, it's a choice of existence. A choice renewed every morning, that over time builds a life that is steady, clear, and truly free. Stoicism teaches us that real strength comes from organizing life from the inside out, with discipline, clarity, and consistency. Here on this channel, you'll find daily videos to reflect on and apply this philosophy in your everyday life, turning each day into a step toward growth. If this content spoke to you, give the video a like and leave a comment saying, "Today I am better than yesterday." That's our daily commitment to progress. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel to keep receiving these reminders of steadiness and transformation.